Adobe has two AI assistants I want to try and use, but so far only one seems like it's a creative partner. In this video, I'm putting the Photoshop Beta AI Assistant head-to-head against the Firefly Beta AI Assistant. By the end, you'll know which one is the design assistant you actually need and which one completely ate it. We've got 4 rounds, one for each task: creative direction, resizing, design edits, and mockups. Then a bonus round where I make both assistants find the mistakes in a layout. Let's find out which one wins. Before we get into the rounds, stick with me while I quickly show you what we're working with, because these two assistants are built very differently. Both assistants are in beta and use partner AI models to generate results. They kind of sit between you and the AI model, so they're meant to do the prompting for you. The Photoshop Beta AI Assistant lives right inside Photoshop Beta, and it's meant to execute changes from natural language prompts. It has an edit side that makes adjustments, removes objects, generates images and resizes, and a prompt side that analyzes your image and comes up with ideas. And the Firefly AI Assistant is a powerful creative tool that works with you and assists you while you art direct using natural language. And here's the thing that really bugs me, because these are both Adobe products, which honestly makes me wonder, why can't Adobe just combine these two assistants? Why are they so different? We want to test both. Any AI can generate a pretty picture, but can it really help with design tasks? Let's find out. Round 1 starts now. First up, creative direction. My challenge for both assistants was simple: create 4 concepts for a social media campaign for my app TubeLab. First test, which one comes up with the strongest ideas? The Photoshop assistant surprised me with some clever viral-style campaign ideas. It pitched a carousel with blurred-out users, teasing real influencer stats, and the copy was actually good. Lines like, "See what your analytics are actually telling you," and "From zero to algorithm." Now, here's the thing. When I ran the same challenge through the Firefly assistant, it came up with very similar ideas. And I think that's because these are both Adobe products pulling from the same underlying AI. Clever and descriptive on both, but the next test is where they split apart. Which one gives me usable assets instead of just suggestions? The Photoshop assistant couldn't lay out its own vision. You could tell the foundation was there, but the typography was a mess. The line spacing was so bad, the copy ran together, and the text was basically illegible. Firefly, on the other hand, gave me much better options and even asked me what I wanted to do next. The typography, colors, and layout were good enough to use right away, and it was way faster returning a result. Last test, how much follow-up prompting does each one need? With Photoshop, honestly, there would be way too much. The result took long enough that I went and got a cup of coffee. I did do one follow-up to swap in my logo and change the accent from red to my brand color, and it handled that. Firefly did the same thing in one prompt, replacing the asset colors and adding the logo properly. And those are all the reasons I think Firefly Assistant won this round. Round 2, resizing. The challenge here is to adapt one social media asset for 2 different platforms. In this case, a background, preserving the composition while changing the aspect ratio. And this is a really fair test because it's something designers do constantly. In Photoshop, I asked for a background image to be resized for Instagram and LinkedIn. The Photoshop assistant created 2 separate PSD files and expanded them to the right size. But on the Instagram version, the laptop and headphones on the desk came out of focus, and there was a visible seam where it expanded the image. Firefly resized both to the correct size with no seams. The LinkedIn landscape version was cropped better, and the tall version actually faded the background out at the top to leave room for copy. Which brings me to the next test. Can it leave room for copy where I need it? Photoshop did leave room, but it missed the main subject of the image. It could have cropped it in a little bit better. Firefly left room for copy on both versions, though the vertical one could have been cropped a bit more closely. Now here's the twist. Can each one handle resizing a layout without ruining the design? The Photoshop assistant surprisingly handled the resize better when the layout was flattened than when it was in layers. When I gave it the layered version, it just stretched the background image. When I flattened it, it used Nano Banana and needed credits to redo the layout, but both the tall and landscape versions turned out well. Firefly this time didn't resize well at all. It just moved the copy area around on the recropped image without laying it out properly. The copy block ended up floating right in the middle. Because the Photoshop assistant actually resized the layouts properly, I'm giving this one to Photoshop AI Assistant. Round 3, design edits. This is a big one for me because I often get flattened artwork from my clients that I need to drop into a layout, and I usually need to change more than one thing at once. So I gave both tools some production edits to make on a flattened piece of artwork. Let's see how they did. First up, Photoshop. Unfortunately, it couldn't fix the existing image, and it couldn't generate a new one to replace it either. It tried to modify the image with layer adjustments, and the result was really bad colors with illegible icons and text. The only thing it got right was placing the TubeLab logo. Now Firefly, it understood the assignment and fixed everything on my list. It even reiterated exactly what it was planning to do before it started anything. It did regenerate the diagram from scratch, but honestly the colors, fonts, and layout came out better than the original, and the arrows were bolder and more visible. It did regenerate my logo like almost every AI model does, but once I attached the logo file, it swapped it out. Overall, it gave me a better asset than when I started. If I wanted to stick closer to the original, I could have been more specific with my prompt, but I like a well-designed asset. Because it gave me usable assets and followed all my instructions, I'm giving this round to Firefly AI Assistant. Round 4, Mockups. In this round, we're testing whether the assistants can create realistic mockups, which could save me a lot of time. There's 3 tests: illustration on a t-shirt mockup, portrait with that t-shirt, and an ebook book mockup. I gave the assistants original artwork to mock up on a t-shirt. Pretty simple. The Photoshop assistant took a very long time. Then it kept making mistakes. So another coffee break while we wait. And the final result was not usable. It couldn't properly separate the t-shirt from its gray background, so I ended up with my artwork on a white t-shirt on a cropped gray rectangle with the blue background behind it. It also asked me to approve credit usage 3 times. I really hope I didn't have to pay 3 times for this result. The Firefly Assistant's results were much better. It created a nice mock-up, and I only had to reprompt once to make the artwork on the t-shirt a little bit smaller. And it was quick, which is what us designers need. Next, I asked them to give me a portrait of a woman wearing that t-shirt. Photoshop generated a woman wearing a white t-shirt, but it regenerated my artwork, oddly placed on the shirt. After prompting to fix it, it added my artwork, but it put it on the wrong layer, under the portrait layer. I had to move it myself, and then it looked okay, but not the assistance I was looking for. Firefly's result was pretty much perfect. It created a smiling woman wearing a white t-shirt, and most importantly, it used the right artwork. Next, I gave the assistants flat images to mock up onto an image of a book. The Photoshop assistant was impossible. After 3 or 4 attempts, I gave up. I even had to tell the assistant to use generative fill and a higher quality model just to get a usable book image. But it still couldn't composite my work onto the book correctly. At one point, it basically just used multiply. I tried prompting it again to use generative fill and actually place my images on the book, and that didn't work either. At that point, I realized I could have just used generative fill myself and probably gotten a better result. For mockups, Photoshop Assistant takes way too long and isn't really doing anything I couldn't do myself. With the Firefly Assistant, I only had to reprompt once. I originally had problems trying to make sure my artwork wasn't regenerated into something different when it mocked it up. In the end, it came up with a very realistic mockup I could use. But here's the part I really liked. It actually gave me tips for the next time, like combining the inside pages into one image to help the AI model give better results. And it saved that as a preference. So next time I can just say, I need a book mockup, check my created items for tips from last time. That alone might be worth the price of admission. Because it was able to make a realistic composite of my ebook, Firefly AI Assistant wins this round. Bonus round, the design QA test. Will they find all the mistakes I hid in this design? Here's the thing, I've been using chatbots and assistants more and more lately to QA my work before it goes out to clients, and honestly, they've saved me more than once. So I thought I'd see if these 2 assistants could catch the mistakes I planted in this design. And here's what I was testing them to find. An incorrect logo, a missing icon, an alignment issue, the wrong font, a cropped off CTA, and a misspelling. Pretty obvious stuff. Let's see how they did. First up, the Photoshop assistant. It found a couple of minor issues, but not the obvious ones that were on my list. So I prompted it to take a closer look, and it still missed them. Now the Firefly assistant. It found every single mistake on my list, plus a few more on top of that, like the app name not being capitalized correctly throughout. I will absolutely be using this assistant to check my designs in the future. And the bonus round winner is the Firefly AI assistant because it found all of my mistakes. So after 4 rounds and a bonus round, the winner overall is the Firefly AI assistant. Firefly is faster, lays out beautiful campaigns, and feels like a real creative partner. Photoshop nails certain technical resizes, but gets bogged down in typography and takes forever to return a result. But remember, both of these are still in beta, so I'm hoping the final versions close that gap. So if you want to see how these tools stack up once they're out of beta, subscribe and you won't miss it. If you want to try TubeLab, the YouTube dashboard app I used as the guinea pig for all this, the link is in the comments. Let me know which assistant you'd actually use, and I'll see you in the next one.